Coming up on the Angus Report, the latest on the 2018 Farm Bill.
Livestock haulers are exempt from the electronic logging device mandate until September 30th. But what happens when the mandate exemption runs out?
A recent Omnibus spending bill gives big wins to U.S. agriculture.
And hear about the inaugural STAR conference held here at the association headquarters.
This is the Angus Report. Hello and welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Bob Cervera.
And I'm Clint Mefford.
Our top news this week. Crafting the 2018 Farm Bill has been anything but traditional so far. Historically, the Agriculture Committees draft the Farm Bill with bipartisan support, but House Agriculture Committee Chairman Mike Conaway is prepared to move a new Farm Bill without Democratic support. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which funds food stamps, has been a huge point of contention between House Democrats and Republicans. In a letter to Conaway, Democrats demanded to see a Farm Bill draft before negotiating on nutrition provisions. That was in mid-March, and still, Democrats refused to support provisions in the bill that expand work requirements and change eligibility rules for SNAP. In stark contrast, the Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman and Ranking Democrat have said they'll pen their draft of the bill with broad bipartisan support. The 2014 Farm Bill expires September 30th. And with dwindling time on the 2018 legislative calendar, agriculture stakeholders are on the edge of their seats while the Farm Bill discussions drag on. Of course, we'll keep you updated while the discussions progress.
The U.S. Department of Transportation announced another 90-day waiver on hours of service trucking regulations as they relate to ELDs. The announcement came March 13th, only 5 days shy of the previous extension ending. And the recently signed Omnibus bill added on to the 90-day waiver, delaying the ELD mandate until at least September 30th. But the extensions don't mean livestock haulers should breathe a sigh of relief. Additional time means more education for haulers, and the agricultural industry still needs to find a solution to the current problematic hours of service rule and ELD mandate. Jairus Settles at Livestock Marketing Association has been working on the issue since it heated up in September.
The delay was given to this particular industry due to the agency's understanding of the fact that we're a little bit unique in the commercial motor vehicle space. Our drivers are spending a lot of time in rural parts of America. They're probably not part of large trucking fleets. Many of them still use flip phones. So a lot of them at that point, and still even today, just didn't know about the new rules, didn't know how to come into compliance with the new rules, and were honestly pretty uncomfortable with the technology. That, coupled with the fact that they're hauling, in the case of livestock, live animals, was looking like a recipe for disaster. So the idea is to make the paper log books, which truck drivers have been using forever, digital and have kind of an automatic recording function via the ELDs. At present, if no changes happen to the hours of service and if drivers must follow absolute technical compliance with the hours of service, we're going to see really impactful changes, especially to coastal cattle, cattle in the northwest and then into the southeast, being much more expensive to haul to the Central Plains for feeding and for harvest. We continue to work collaboratively with the agency and with the congressional partners that we've been working with. We'd really like to see a change to the underlying hours of service. We'd like to see some expansion of the existing agricultural exemptions that do exist. Fun fact, if you're hauling an agricultural commodity, the first 150 air miles from the source of that commodity is actually exempt time, which is really helpful. That still doesn't get cattle from the Central Valley of California to the feed yards in eastern Colorado, but it helps.
We'll keep you updated while government officials and agricultural companies debate the topic.
President Trump recently signed a $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill to fund the government through September 30th. The 2,232-page bill contains several provisions that address agriculture priorities, like another ELD mandate delay. The livestock industry is celebrating an exemption from farm emissions reporting under EPA's Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act rules. Rural broadband will get a $600 million grant and loan program. 2018 agriculture research funding was increased to $3.03 billion, an increase of $139 million from fiscal year 2017. And the spending bill provided a Section 199A tax fix that levels the playing field for all agriculture commodity buyers and sellers.
Mineral deficiencies in cattle can be costly. Jeffrey Hall, head of diagnostic veterinary toxicology at Utah State University, says selenium, copper, and zinc are the most common deficiencies. He explains how an adequate supplementation program can benefit any operation.
These deficiencies actually cause animals to not grow as fast, they're not as healthy, because it predominantly affects the immune system. And because it affects the immune system, these animals are not able to fight off diseases they would otherwise be able to fight off without any problems. So the best way is to actually test your cows and see exactly where you're at. If you start a new plan, then you really need to give them 30 days to equilibrate and then test them to see whether the new plan's working. Where if you're already on a plan, it's better to go ahead and just test your cows, then you can know what plan you're on. You can find out if there's deficiencies. If there's not, then you know you're getting things done correctly and can sleep better at night. If you do identify problems, then it gives you a starting point to make a better scientific judgment on what type of adjustments need to be made to correct the problems. You know, with adequate supplementation programs to get animals into the optimum for their immune health and their reproductive efficiency, the biggest thing that producers see on a regular basis is they'll see a jump in their weaning weights. The other thing that they see as far as benefit is because you decrease the amount of disease condition within calves, you'll actually have more live calves at weaning. Those calves will be bigger, so it really impacts your overall saleable product. Now, those are the things that a producer will see immediately. The thing that they don't see oftentimes is in a cow-calf operation that increases in the reproductive efficiency of the cows. And so you'll see more cows that get bred, so you have less animals you have to cull for being open. So that prevents you from having to retain additional replacement animals, and that saves you money in the long run. So it's actually an economic gain to the ranch.
Contact your local veterinarian to get started on or optimize a supplementation program for your herd.
Iowa State University Extension beef specialist Denise Schwab knows that testing forage takes time and effort. She offers advice for farmers and ranchers who are looking to save some time but still gauge the nutrient content in their forage.
A lot of guys that I work with, you talk about getting a forage test, and we have to test each hay crop separately and preferably every field, and they really start to drag their feet. So a lot of times I tell producers, let's deal with either the forage you have the most of, which in a lot of our cases is our first cutting hay, and the forages that are the most variable, which again in Iowa is our first cutting hay. And we talked too about some guys I know make first cutting hay, the third week of May, and some don't get to it till the third week of June. And since first cutting is about half of our hay crop yield, if you're only going to test one, let's test first cutting. And we'll kind of estimate on the others because they tend to be a little more consistent. When we want to fine-tune that ration and maybe blend some corn stalks or some low-quality grass hay, ditch hay, or CRP hay in with our good hay and really fine-tune to meet the cow's needs without overfeeding, without having a lot of waste, that's where that feed test is really important because it allows us to really fine-tune to meet those energy and protein and mineral requirements on the cow.
Forage testing is a great option for producers who are looking to optimize efficiency on their operation. Contact your local extension for more information. When we return, we head to Arkansas, home of Jim and Melissa Moore.
Then we recap the first ever STAR Conference. Visit Angus.org to continue watching this episode of the Angus Report.